Good morning, good afternoon to all the people that is with us today. It's a big pleasure to be in this new webinar. We have a big pleasure to keep doing this collaboration with Hendrix Genetics. I think is the number four or fifth webinar that we're doing, and this is part of our philosophy uh, collaboration and providing value to the industry. So today we have Diogo Ito from Global Technic Services on the nutrition part of layers. And Diogo is going to be taking the subject today, alternative ingredients in layer diet. So Diogo presentation is going to be around 40, 45 minutes. Then we're going to have 10, 15 minutes for answer question and answers. And then this video is going to be open for the public with no charge in our YouTube channel. So Diogo, thank you very much for your time and your passion. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you all for the opportunity. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for everyone. Well, I will start my presentation talking about a little bit about the use of alternative ingredients in layer diets. So the main idea of this presentation is to stimulate us to think about how to use properly or how to find alternative ingredients. So unfortunately, I don't have the silver bullet. So we still don't have the magical alternative ingredient that can be used in all countries, in all situations, and help us to reduce or at least to neutralize the recently effects on the price of the feed, of the ingredients that we are suffering. So first of all, so the topics that I choose is to try to find some answers why we use alternative ingredients. And we need to consider operational considerations. We have also technical considerations, financial considerations, and at the end, we can have some space for some kind of brainstorming. So basically, what we have in the farms, in the egg farms, the egg farmer normally what they do, basically we do with the help from the layers is to change feed ingredients into eggs. So in this graph, we have two informations based on the local prices that we have in Brazil. So what we see on the bars on the top is how many bags of corn, 60 kilos, we can buy after selling one box of eggs. So it means that the higher is the bar is better because we need to have the capacity to buy feed ingredients to feed our layers. So as we can see is, and this type of graph you can adapt for your local situation. But for a long time, since I already, when I started in the layer industry, in the egg industry, I heard from the egg producers that how can I say, a normal or a good situation is when you can buy at least 2 bags of corn after selling one box of egg. So what we see is that we had in the recently years some critical situations, but fortunately, on the last couple of years, the situation is more stable and favorable to the for egg producing. The same information we see on the graph on the bottom in a different way, but using the same data that I used to create these graphs. The second ingredient that normally is more used to produce eggs is soybean meal. So in this situation, we have some similar analysis, but the way that we analyze the results, it's the opposite. In this case, the calculation that I made is how many egg boxes I need to buy 1 ton of soybean meal. It means that as the lower the bars is better. But in the same way, what we see is that we can have years where this exchange rate is better. Some years it's not, it's very critical. But at the same time, it's possible that we see that to see that we have months during the year that this relation, this ratio can change or keep as some kind of uh, regular behavior by the last years. So, why we not use alternative ingredients? Some possibilities. One, advantages or benefits of current ingredients. The flock productivity is it's okay. I am already accustomed to use the current situation, but the other thing that can not stimulate us to use alternative ingredients is that maybe it will require new investments in the feed mill, new silo, for example. Second possibility, limitations of current alternative ingredients. Sometimes we can don't have all the knowledge about the nutritional matrix. Sometimes you can have some loss in the productivity, but also related to the lack of knowledge. And sometimes we don't have the amount of the ingredients available that can be result in a good financial impact. We can consider that we need at least to use during 3 months in constant use. And the third cause can be the input price of or the price of the feed ingredient do not fit with the feed formulation program, because the feed formulation program can tell to us what can be the maximum price of the ingredient. So, but the question is the price the limiting factor, or is the nutritional profile of the ingredient as limiting factor? Because as much as the ingredient has less nutrients, it's necessary to become more cheaper. Otherwise, the formulation program will not choose the ingredient that can be available. But on the other hand, what motivates us to seek alternative ingredients? Cost control, to lower cost offerings, lack of ingredients, or increased competition for the same ingredients that can be caused by importation issues, lack of traditional ingredients, because worse than higher cost is not having ingredients. And in some cases, we can also have competition with human food. Other point is the alternative sources of milk micronutrients. For example, we have algae, some ingredients that comes from algae that can provide omega-3 to the eggs. Or we can use ingredients that can increase the yolk color. And sometimes we can have some market pressures related to some unsustainable production, or some pressures related to ingredients that are linked to environmental impacts. So in the last years, we can consider that the availability of feedstock around the world is changing. For example, corn and sorghum is being used to produce ethanol and resulting the DGS. Soybeans produce being used to produce oil, not only for human use but also for biodiesel. Meat and bone meal. The pet industry is demanding more and more meat and bone meal. But we need to have meat and bone meal. We need to have consumption of beef meat. uh, and the main and always we need to be have to have attention on the short shelf life of meat bone meal. Source of phosphorus, because phosphorus can compete with agriculture. In some cases, we have some dependence of or imports of some ingredients to produce locally the calcium phosphate. But fortunately, more and more we are seeing the improvement of the efficiency of the enzymes, phytase in general. So we can find some regional opportunities. These opportunities can help us to replace 100% of traditional ingredients, but when it's not necessary, uh, possible, maybe 50% of the traditional ingredients already helps. We can promote circular economy to reduce environmental impacts, to stimulate regional economy. We can also need to promote the rusticity of the layers because they are the layers, the hens are able to transform byproducts into a high quality food that are the eggs. So we have the alternative ingredients and we have the theoretical alternatives and the real alternatives. So what can be the real possibilities, real alternatives? We need to consider some questions. Can enzymes increase the use of maximum limit of alternative ingredients? Process. Can the ingredients be better utilized if they undergo some industrial process and remain economically viable? We need to remember because that, for example, for soybean meal, we are looking for alternative ingredient for a feed stuff that already being processed. Partnerships. Is it possible to establish uh, partnerships to find new alternative ingredients? How the research centers can help us? Uh, what is the max price? What is the minimal nutritional matrix? And the producer, do they have availability of time, willingness, interest, and patience to find these new ingredients? Because the ingredients need to be palatable to the birds, low variability in nutritional composition. It is a limitation item, for example, for the DGS in some cases. We need to have knowledge to measure and neutralize anti-nutritional factors. In the past, sorghum was the one that we had some problems linked to tannins. Uh, uh, is this ingredient easy to handle, storage, and dosing, and also not harmful to equipments? Do not alter egg characteristics. Sometimes we use sorghum and millet in the feed, but we need to use some pigments to keep the yolk color. Do not cause metabolic disorders. This is the limitation of bakery byproducts. And essentially need to be economically viable. This is still a limitation for insect meal. So to optimize the potential of alternative ingredients, we can also still use the feed, not food, but feed additives. You have the enzymes, probiotics, antioxidants, mycotoxin binders, pigments, insoluble fiber. We need to link the dots. So it's necessary to monitor the process in the feed mill. It's important to monitor the zootechnical performance to evaluate the cost benefit of these changes. And it's necessary to have technical monitoring in the field because we can have some interactions, positive and negative, in the good health. Because the base of balance and nutrition keeps the same. We always looking for the ideal situation where we have the balance between cost, production, quality. But if we go wrong, we can have some deficiency or excess of nutrients that can cause more costs or less production. In each situation, we already know the effects of, for example, deficiency. We can have lower weight gain, problems with brooding, low peak production, lower persistence of production. On the other hand, if we have also excess of some nutrients because how the birds will digest and absorb the nutrients is not well known. We can have enteric problems, excessive weight gain, low feed intake, excessive egg size or lower egg size, nutritional imbalance, and in some extreme cases, poisoning. So it's always tricky to find this zone of balanced nutrition. So the first step is the nutritional matrix. The more concentrated the ingredients, the easier to meet the nutritional requirements. Uh, it also helps us to introduce coarser ingredients. The more diluted is the ingredient, the more space it's occupying the formula. So sometimes the cheap turns expensive. Bromatological analysis is important. Normally, we have the bromatological analysis provided by the premix or the vitamin and mineral suppliers. But sometimes we have problems, limitations related to the shipping time. And mostly the analysis that we have is the results that we receive are the crude nutrients or raw nutrients. And mostly we use digestible, available nutrients to balance the formula. Uh, which kind of research centers we have to help us to have a more accuracy with the prediction equations to determine digestibility. And which other factors can interfere on the nutritional matrix? Can be the farm. We need to identify the variations, what is happening. Sometimes we have some operational adjustments to do. And it's important to have a fine tuning with nutritionists to reduce these negative impacts. So we also need to remember that it's very important to keep or to save the gut integrity because necrotic enteritis or coccidiosis can cause problems related to the formulation, oxidized fats, management problems, sudden changes in formulation. Sometimes we are using alternative ingredients. We planned how to start to use, but suddenly these ingredients ends, and suddenly from night to day we need to change again the formula, and the birds need to handle with this sudden change. Water quality remains important. It does not matter if you are using or not alternative ingredients. Other points to consider, the bromatological characteristics of the ingredients. So what is the nutritional matrix of the ingredient? We normally start with the crude nutrient, but we need to find the digestible, metabolizable nutrients. Variation is important because as higher is the variation in the nutritional matrix, normally we have a limitation in the inclusion level. So the higher the coefficient is, the lower the safe inclusion are. Are there any nutritional factors? What are they? How can they be measured? What are the symptoms of the intoxication? How can they be neutralized? So sometimes you need to check because sometimes the max use of the ingredients is caused by anti-nutritional factors. Other characteristics from the ingredients: expiration date, moisture content, particle size, transportation and storage method, flowability in the feed mill. during when the ingredient pass through the silos, screws, conveyors, elevators, etc. How we can buy these ingredients in bulk or bags. Again, about anti-nutritional factors. How can we neutralize these anti-nutritional factors? Sometimes you can use heat treatment as we use for soybean meal already. Sometimes we can think about enzymes. Uh, Maybe it's necessary to identify, select, and recommend some cultivars with fewer anti-nutritional factors. uh, And also, it's very important to compare the level of inclusion versus the performance from the flocks. What else? Factors that enhance alternative ingredients. Biosecurity and water quality remains important. Poultry house environment remains important because all the time that the bird suffers from heat stress, we need to concentrate more the feed because the tendency of the bird is to eat less. And as much more the concentrate feed need to be, more difficult is to find space in the formula to include alternative ingredients. Management, because if we see that after we include some new ingredient, we have a decrease on feed intake, we need the help from the farmers to increase again the feed intake. And from the genetics side, uh, well, we are always looking for birds capable for accepting different ingredients and also birds with feed consumption capacity. So when we start to think about the introduction of new ingredients, it can be gradual. For example, we can start using 50% of the potential, of max potential of the use of alternative ingredients for the next 2 3 weeks. And if nothing bad or wrong happens, we can improve to 100% of substitution. So it's very important to monitor the flock performance, feed intake, production, egg weight, body weight, the traditional performance data, but also manure aspect, feathering of the birds, behavior of the birds could be information that is useful to us before we start to see any kind of problem related to the performance data. And many times it's used to be a more conservative nutritional matrix. As I saw in the research is that normally if you see a study conducted with broilers, normally the digestibility for layers is around 5% less. So this is kind that we can adapt or it's necessary because sometimes we don't have all the answers to start to use alternative ingredients. So from the economic considerations about the use of alternative ingredients, so what is the price ratio compared to the reference ingredient? What are the storage requirements? What is the supply capacity? What is the saving per ton of feed? What are the operation costs? What is the feed conversion ratio? Not only kilo by kilo, but also how much money income versus how much money are outcoming. So this is a simulation of if considering a bird from one day until 700 weeks of age. What I did, I separated the traditional feed phases, just starter, grower, developer, prelay, pre-peak, peak, post-peak, and final. On average daily feed consumption, the total of feed that we expect to have can be a little more, can be a little less. But the most important thing of this table is to think that if you are looking for alternative ingredients, where these alternative ingredients can help us to save more money without the risk of having uh, performance losses. So if we consider that from start until pre-peak, we are giving to the birds, we are on the phase of formation or investment, all the feed that the bird will eat until 35 weeks of age represents 27, around 27% of total feed of 100 weeks cycle. Look that after 35 weeks of age until 100 weeks of age, if you sum 28 plus 47, it represents 73% of total feed that the bird will eating during the whole cycle. So one message that is possible to find with this information is sometimes we are trying to find a way to save money or to introduce alternative ingredients in the hearing phase. And we start to see some problems. But remember, if you use the alternative ingredients, we start at the grower phase. We are giving or interfering on the feed costs of 2% of the total feed that the bird will eat during 100 weeks of age. Okay, Diogo, but we need to consider the quantity of the birds or the hens that we have in the feed, right? So the same quantity that is important to consider when we are looking for alternative ingredients, the same importance of the quantity of the birds is if something gone wrong during the hearing period, what can be the negative effects during the production phase. So sometimes we can save one during the hearing period, but we are losing three during the production phase. It's not a good deal. So what can be the economic potential of the alternative ingredients? If we consider different flock or farm sizes and different average daily consumption, we have different amounts of monthly feed that we need to produce. Based on the again, with the flock size, the total feed that we need to produce monthly, and based on the how much money we are saving per ton of feed, we can have an estimation. Now, this case, in this example, I'm based on the Brazilian real, but the same mathematics is valid. It does not matter if it's US dollars or euros or yen. The logic is the same. We have some values that we need to consider. That is good or not, is enough or not for our purpose. But also we need to consider the availability of the ingredients. If we have different inclusion rates that can be 50% of the total feed or 500 kilos per ton, sometimes we have ingredients that the rate, inclusion rate is only 1% or 10 kilos per ton. So based on the quantity of the feed that we need to produce per month, we have the estimation of the quantity of each ingredient we need to acquire, to buy monthly. So, this quantity is what is the available volume, what is the storage capacity, and based on these two questions, we can think about two strategies. Plan A, use 100% of replacement potential for time X, or plan B, use 50% of the replacement potential for time 2 times. So this is something that we need to think about before we start to use the alternative ingredients. So based on now some informations quite new that we have. Here we have the information based on the tabelas brasileiras, so the Brazilian nutritional table for poultry and swine, released last year in 2024. So if we look to the ingredients, for each ingredient, we have a max limit of inclusion. So we have the most known ingredients like corn, maize, sorghum, millet, and look at the possible alternative ingredients. So mainly, all the alternative ingredients can only reach one third, 50% of the traditional or the reference ingredient. So if we use some new kind of enzyme, can we increase this max limit of use and have more and save more money using more of these alternative ingredients? If we look to the protein source ingredients, the reference is soybean meal. And again, we have some similar situation. All the other, or some of the ingredients that we have knowledge only can reach 50 or one third of the potential that we already using with the soybean meal. So this is something that we need to consider. For soybean meal, sometimes we are just hoping for a new ingredient, but sometimes we need to be more proactive. So we need to consider availability. So higher the biodiesel production, the greater the availability of soybean meal or the soybeans. But the higher demand for feed, the lower the availability of soybean meal. So, and in some countries, like Brazil, the market demands freedom to export without compromising the national profitability of the activity. Demand, proteases reduces the demand for soybean meal. The current or the alternatives that you have, we are looking for products derived from legumes like peas. Or we are looking for products with similar levels without being dependent of industrial processing. Because if we don't extract the oil, it will increase the demand of fiber salts, especially the insoluble ones. When we think about the insect meal is very rich in crude protein, chitin, but also fat. So this is one reason that again we need to think about which other ingredient we need to add to the feed to balance better all the other nutrients. It's possible to have a partial or total substitution. So we are aware about the anti-nutritional factors, and the feed mill have the structure to use these new ingredients. Let's look to the phosphorus or animal byproducts. We have bone meat meal from beef, from pork, fish meal, feather meal, blood meal, offal meal. Normally that comes from the broiler industry. And again, we need to think about the particle size, shelf life, microbiology safety, bioavailability of the nutrients, uniformity, and also regulatory aspects, because sometimes it's prohibited to offer the same. If you are formulating for layers or for broilers, it can be prohibited to use feather, blood, or offal meal that comes from the slaughterhouse of broilers. So we can use broiler byproducts to pork, swine feed, but we can use swine pork meal in the layer diet. But no, in some cases we are not it's prohibited to use the same species to the same feed. Uh, some grains, uh, normally that and ingredients that can also can provide fiber. Uh, in this case, it's more easy, but the total inclusion of these ingredients is quite low compared to the other ingredients. And also, we need to take care about the moisture, mycotoxins, uh, how to stimulate the consumption, etc. Oils. Oils are the one that's more easy to find alternative ingredients. But again, we need to take care about the fatty acid profile of each oil, the stability at ambient temperature. Sometimes we need to heat some oils to use in the feed mill, and if to have the fluidity of the oil. And if you do all the time, all the days, it will probably will reduce the shelf life of the ingredient. So many times, sometimes it's necessary to think about the use of complementary antioxidants to have a more safe use of oils. Not only the ingredients are being we are looking for alternative ingredients. The same case is happening with the feed additives. So we are changing from like the traditional chemical feed ingredient, feed additives to more natural feed additives in the feeds. If we look with a little more attention, we can find that in some places, some regions, researchers are looking for local alternative ingredients, coconuts, for example. Uh, which part of the coconut is useful, is usable for the feed diets? So, uh, insects. In this case, in this study, is interesting because the researchers already included an economic study about what can be the price of the feed, the insect meal to be more economical in the feed formulation. The same happens in other, for example, in these cases, is a paper prepared by the Poultry Science Association. So one thing that is important to think about insects in the layer diet is how to produce or how to feed these insects, because we can use the waste or byproducts from the human nutrition, but it cannot be a source of cross contamination to the insects. Uh, Large producers of insects are always looking for partnerships to improve the insect meal production. Algae is another important ingredient. We are mostly looking to the land, but we need to also remember the water as a source of to produce more different kind of ingredients. In our website, Hendrix Genetics, we are already prepared a small technical article about the use of alternative ingredients in layer diets. So the nutritionists have to face different situations. I am already finishing my presentation. We can differentiate between imagination and reality, perspectives and possibilities. Most people believes that this is the situation that the nutritionists have. All the information, everything under control, and everything is going fine. But sometimes the nutritionist can have the idea that the nutrition is only is too expensive. Yeah? Why you are using 15 different ingredients in your formula? Just five is enough. The other 10 is not necessary. Stop to use it. Sometimes the nutritionists are the one that always is begging, please allow me to use this new ingredient. But I believe that the reality from of the nutritionists that we have is something similar to this. We have a hope, an idea of which for where we are walking, but surrounded by a lot of darkness, uncertainties. So the work of a nutritionist is not easy, as we know. So some final considerations. When we look to outside the farm, so studies with alternative ingredients help to neutralize increase in production costs. In this case, partnerships with universities are useful for minimizing risks in large scale. Alternative ingredients offer the possibility of stimulating the circular economy, transforming low-value ingredients into high-value food, like egg. And also can help the influence of the brand of the farmer in the region that they are located. Develop those suppliers of alternative ingredients to find a win-win situation, and mostly based on the formulation simulation. This is the easy part. So the feed formulation program can help us to provide an expectation of price or nutritional level that the ingredients need to have to become economical. Zootechnical performance is important for validated formula chains, so we need to avoid cheap solutions that end up being expensive. In the production phase, the economic benefits are more significant. The feed mill must be prepared for the use of alternative ingredients, especially related to storage and dosing. Feed formulation programs enable futurology studies, helping to establish purchasing strategies and can help us to generate competitive advantages. Uh, Use of alternative ingredients is a need or an opportunity. This is something that we need to think about it. Feed mill need to control and monitor the process. Otherwise, we can have problems in the field. And the nutritional adjustments. We have a lot of feed additives that can help us on this task to to optimize the cost, to protect the intestinal integrity. So in this case, more studies we need to develop uh, hand by hand. So the alternative ingredients can help us the rising of the production costs, but they do not reduce health challenges or correct management or environment failures. Knowing the ingredient increase the effectiveness of feed formulation and reduce the risk of productivity losses. The feed mill needs to be prepared to handle alternative ingredients, and the feed additives available on the market can increase the economic potential of alternative ingredients. Finally, the scientific studies are necessary to identify nutritional deficiencies or anti-nutritional factors. Eggs hen-house and feed conversion remains the goals to be achieved, and the genetic improvement of laying hens seeks layers adaptable to different nutritional programs. So was where the information that I got for this topic, the use of alternative ingredients for layers. I hope that these informations are useful to you. There is my email to contact and also the link for the Hendrix Genetics webpage where it's possible to find many different articles related to good practice in the egg industry. Thank you for your attention.
Diogo, thank you very much for your presentation. I think was very clear. And this is part of our goals and our vision, presenting very useful information to our audience, and also providing the contact, your contact, so people can reach you and make this connectivity into the industry, to provide value to the industry. We have a question, but I don't understand it. Is Maleku Girmay, could you send the note later, please? Well, in this webinar, we don't send any PDF file. That's why we provide this in video. So anytime that you want to go over the video again, you can watch, stop and take notes, whatever. So in our dynamics, we don't provide a PPT because it's recorded in the video. So if we don't have any questions, Diogo already shared his email address, so also you can find it in social media. In our post is her link. So Diogo, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much for information, and see you next time. Okay?
You all, thank you.
Thank you to the audience, and let's see. Are you up for one question, Diogo? We have one more question. One question.
Yeah.
It say
Why
why
sugar?
sugar, okay, is considered to replace for soybean oil.
Uh, Sugar can consider can be an option to replace soybean oil, but we need to consider one thing that it can be the same problem related to the bakery byproducts. That is the fact that the birds prefer a low release carbohydrate source. So it's like it's not the proper situation, but it's kind of similar. If we increase a lot the use of bakery or also sugar, we can cause some peak of glucose to the bird, and the bird is not physiologically prepared to have already so quick release energy source. This is also remember we can remember that the bird have a crop and gizzard, and both are responsible to a low release of the energy. So sugar can be replaced can replace soybean oil. I believe that yes. Do we have the proper answer of how much of sugar cane we can use to the poultry diet? My answer that I have now is no. But I think that also it's can be useful, the sugar cane, the whole sugar cane, because we are not only giving uh, sugar, carbohydrate, but also an insoluble fiber to the bird. So my consideration is we need to do some research to find a way to use sugar cane.
Okay, so that was the only question. So again, Diogo, thank you very much. And they can find you, or the audience that is going to be seeing this video later. And see you later, Diogo. And thank you to all the people that joined us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.